This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
The Taliban announces a general amnesty for Afghan government officials, urging them to return to work. Zambia's President Lungu concedes after Hakainde Hichilema wins the election. And Nigeria begins its second phase of inoculations. Welcome to Africa Live on CGTN with me, Beatrice Marshall, in Nairobi. Also coming up on the program. In business, cash is still king in South Africa as users remain cautious about cashless payments. And coming up in your sports, Afghan athletes denied historic chance to appear at the Tokyo Paralympic Games due to nationwide upheaval. We begin our broadcast in Afghanistan, where the Taliban have announced a general amnesty for all government officials and urged them to return to work. They are encouraging them to continue with jobs with confidence. Local freelance journalist Zamaraya Abbasin reports from Kabul.
Kabul is in a moment of relief after one day and one night, a kind of feeling of fever. It means the Taliban are besieged and they are in control of Kabul city and order. At the same time, people are getting familiar with the Taliban. The Taliban that are controlling Kabul in different streets, roads and squares. They are everywhere now, and the people were seeing them at the beginning as an aliens, but now it looks like the people are getting familiar and comfortable with this situation. At least there is no fear of a suicide attack or anything else that we were experiencing in the past. And also, if we see in the other angle, there are shops and some small malls are getting to the roads and opening again after 2 days of total shutdown in the city. And the Taliban are expected to be appearing in Afghan local medias. Today they will have a press briefing. Zabiullah Mujahid for the first time will appear in front of media according to the reports and the invitation from the Taliban side, and it will be held at the same spot that the previous government spokesperson were appearing.
While people in Afghanistan and around the world are watching with concern the events unfolding in Afghanistan.
The current situation is worrying. All of the civilians are worried about what will happen in the future. We hope the Taliban will focus on improving Afghanistan's security situation, and we also hope the Taliban will make some changes. Like girls didn't have any access to education under their rule in the past. The Taliban should dissipate people's worries and work for Afghanistan's development.
The United States initiated a meaningless war, and the victims are us, the Afghan people and the country.
There is a tragedy is happening in Afghanistan. And I wish the world community, and especially President Biden and his administration, make a better decision regarding to this situation and do not let the country being destroyed by these extremist groups.
Earlier, CCTV reporters talked with the Chinese ambassador to Afghanistan, as well as China's special envoy for Afghan affairs. They talked about the situation in Afghanistan and China's relations with the country.
The current situation is the result of Washington's failed policy towards Afghanistan. China respects Afghanistan's sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity. We will not interfere in its internal affairs, and we will have extensive contacts with all factions and be friendly with all Afghan people.
We also keep the people's safety in mind. Throughout the process, we should fully safeguard China's interests, ensure the peace and security of China's border, and safeguard the lives and property of our embassies, institutions, and personnel in Afghanistan.
The United Nations Security Council held an emergency meeting on Monday to discuss the crisis in Afghanistan. It called for humanitarian support for the Afghan people and joint efforts to combat terrorism in the war-torn country. William Denzlo has more from New York.
Addressing the United Nations Security Council, Antonio Guterres said the world is following the events in Afghanistan with a heavy heart and urged all parties, especially the Taliban, to exercise utmost restraint to protect lives. Members of the Security Council echoed the Secretary-General's call to not allow Afghanistan to again become a safe haven for terrorist organisations, with China calling this a bottom line.
We hope that the Taliban in Afghanistan will earnestly deliver on their commitments and make a clean break with the terrorist organizations. All countries should fulfill their obligations in accordance with international law and Security Council resolutions, work with each other in combating terrorism in all its forms and manifestations.
And following that meeting, the 15-member Security Council issued a press statement calling for an immediate cessation of all hostilities and the establishment of a new, united, inclusive and representative government. But Afghan officials at the UN are wary.
We've witnessed time and again how Taliban have broken their promises and commitments in the past. We have seen gruesome images of Taliban's mass executions of military personnel and target killings of civilians in Kandahar and other big cities.
Security Council members have urged that the country's humanitarian needs be met. The United States' UN Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield says that more than 500 million tonnes of aid are sitting at border crossings. And amid chaotic scenes at the airport in the nation's capital, Kabul, as people scramble to leave the country, Thomas-Greenfield pledged continued US support.
The United States promises to be generous in resettling Afghans in our own country, and I'm heartened by the pledges we've seen from other nations to do the same. We need to all do more, and the time to step up is now.
The Taliban has seized Kabul, and Afghanistan's UN ambassador warns that women and girls are about to lose their freedoms to work and go to school, adding that the fate of millions of Afghans now hangs in the balance. William Denzlo, CGTN, New York.
And let's return to Kabul, where the Taliban have announced a general amnesty for all government officials and urged them to return to work. They are encouraging them to continue with their jobs with confidence. Let's now cross over to correspondent Zimarileye Abbasin. He's joining us live from Kabul for the very latest from there. Thank you for joining us on Africa Live. What is the situation right now in Kabul and across Afghanistan?
Hello there. The situation is getting normal right now. Kabul is witnessing a very heavy winds, and that's of course I would like to sorry and apologize my audience and you if it's any problem. But all around the city I was walking today, there were Taliban everywhere, again in every street, and they have started their own style of reformation inside the cities in Afghanistan. The situation all around the country under Taliban is very calm now, and there are some reports that that comes from nowhere, which we cannot forget, that the Taliban have violated some human rights, but we have no exact resource, that's why. But my exact sources told me that the situation in Ghazni and Balkh, in Herat, in Helmand, Kandahar, everywhere is so calm, such as the Kabul city is witnessing at the moment. I was coming all the way, and I was walking there, and I was seeing Taliban, for example, and the very green zone that was known previously, and Wazir Akbar Khan, and at the same time Zambak Square, and also all around the presidential palace, close to the US Embassy. The Taliban are looking for everybody. They just get their heads inside and they greet the people and then normally let them go. No search, nobody search, no nothing. And one of these stories that I just witnessed this afternoon, I saw two persons were talking with the Taliban, and I was keen to understand what's going on. There was a man asking for his rights, and it was an issue of money, and he said that this guy is living in my house, he was a warlord or something, but haven't paid his millions of Afghanis till now, and he was also warned by his gunmen and the force that he had. The Taliban was making sure and telling him that everything will be solved, the rights of everybody will be given. That's how the Taliban are behaving, but there is not everything administered. At the same time, Taliban spokesperson Zabiullah Mujahid said that he will be holding a press conference along with their Culture and Information Commission and also with the media officials and organization. They are making sure that the media colleagues work in a comfort zone and ease. Currently, Afghan media is doing their own jobs this third day, and everything is getting normal from the media side, from the somehow, and malls and shops are getting opened, and the fear that people had from the Taliban, it's getting decreased.
All right, is Marialai Abbasin joining us there from Kabul. Thank you. The president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, says U.S. special forces will soon be deployed to the east of the country to help fight Islamist militants. President Tshisekedi says the troops will support the Congolese army in its campaign against the Allied Defense Forces, also known as the ADF. The troops will also advise gamekeepers in the Virunga and Garamba national parks, which are havens for militia groups. The U.S. has designated the ADF as a terrorist organization affiliated with the Islamic State. Well, I'm now joined by Dr. Mustafa Ali, co-founder and chairman of the Horn International Institute for Strategic Studies. He's based here in Nairobi, Kenya. Dr. Ali, thank you for joining us on the program. What are your thoughts, though, on the timing of the deployment?
The deployment itself, coming at a time where we're witnessing the unfolding events in Afghanistan, where the Taliban have been coming back to the driving seat, it casts a very dark shadow on counterterrorism and counterinsurgency operations, particularly those led by the United States of America and Western powers in far-flung lands. And in asymmetric warfare, it is such a difficult kind of warfare for established armies, for conventional armies to fight them. And if you don't get the various aspects of asymmetric warfare, cost asymmetry, information, operational asymmetries, and most importantly, the cultural asymmetry, then you might get it wrong. And if the US is not very careful, if DRC is not very careful, there will be another getting it wrong in the eastern parts of the DRC.
So do you think, though, the deployment of the U.S. Special Forces will make a difference in DRC's security situation?
Only where it concerns in terms of transfer of technology, and if that transfer of technology, intelligence gathering operations and training to the DRC forces, then it may make some difference. But if that is not going to be done, it won't make much of a difference. Remember that technological superiority does not necessarily translate into mastery in the battlefield. As we have witnessed in Afghanistan, the US will need to train the local forces. DRC, the US and the international community will need to understand the context and the culture in which the ADF is operating in.
Dr. Mustafa Ali joining us there via Zoom in Nairobi. Thank you. Let's now head to Nigeria, where gunmen have attacked an agricultural college in the northwestern Zamfara state. The armed men are said to have kidnapped a number of students and staff and killed several security guards. This is the latest attack by armed criminal gangs targeting students in the region as kidnappings for ransom continue to worsen in the region. Meanwhile, Nigeria's Plateau state government has extended a curfew in the state capital Jos and surrounding areas after signs of increasing tension in the city. The move follows the killing of at least 23 Muslim travelers returning from a religious ceremony. Dozens of others were wounded when their convoy of buses were attacked on Saturday. The Plateau state government says the imposition of curfew is necessary to avoid a further deterioration of the security situation. And we can now cross over to CGTN's Phil Hanza. He's joining us live from Abuja. Phil, good to see you there. So what more do we know about the gunmen kidnapping college students in Zamfara?
Well, thanks, Beatrice. What we know at the moment is that according to the Zamfara Police State Command, they say that the bandits, numbering quite a number of them, dozens of them on motorcycles as usual, because this is about the same semblance of operations we've seen in the past few months. They came to the school with the intention of abducting hundreds of them, but they were met by stiff firepower from some police operatives that were there. They also raised an alarm for an additional reinforcement, and they came at the dead of the night to kidnap all of them, but they couldn't, and they were able to make way with 15 of the students and 4 staff, and in the process a police inspector was killed and 2 other civilian security guards. The police state command also says that there was a hot pursuit of the bandits, or rather the unknown gunmen, with the victims. They were able to rescue 3 other staff members, but at the moment they say that there's a high surveillance effort ongoing with collaboration from the military and other police security operatives to try to comb the area where they believe that these gunmen have kept the victims, to also try to release them or find the victims and of course rescue them. That's the much we know from the Zamfara State Police Command, but of course locals are also hoping that they can provide some kind of information, if need be, to the security operatives so that they can fast track whatever process of finding and rescuing these victims.
So Phil, can you give us a sense of how many school children are still in captivity, and has there been any update on their whereabouts?
Thanks, Beatrice. I like the way you put it, a sense of how many of these children or victims have been kidnapped. It's quite really difficult to pinpoint the exact numbers of children that have been kidnapped since the start of the year in Nigeria. But if I was to give you a sense of it, would look at all the reports so far since the start of the year, since December actually in 2020, where there was a major kidnap of school children, school boys. So we know that over 1,000 of them have been kidnapped so far. And if you look at the different states that they've been kidnapped, they revolve around the northwest and north central region of Nigeria. So we know that, so it's safe to say about 30% of them are still missing from the reports that have been available in different pockets of abductions in Niger State, in Kaduna State, in Katsina, and and Zamfara states. If you look at talking about their whereabouts, is also quite difficult to pinpoint where exactly they are. If not, it will be something that the security operators will be glad to know about. But of course, we know that the government has made several efforts and also pledged to release them. There's a forest called Rugu Forest that borders Niger State, Katsina, Zamfara, and Kaduna State. It even stretches into the Niger Republic. It's about 220 kilometers. So that, from reports from security operatives and of course air assault on the forest, you could tell that that's one forest that is largely ungoverned, and a lot of security experts have also they also believe that that will be one of the hideouts of these criminals. But we know that they have a form of using the victims as body shields to prevent attacks from security operatives. But the president has given a marching order to all security operatives across the country to step up its efforts to find ways to rescue these victims, if at all that's the location or the only location that they are believed to be.
All right, Philly has joining us there from Abuja, Nigeria. Thank you. And let's now head to Zambia, where outgoing President Edgar Lungu has conceded defeat after the Electoral Commission declared his rival Hakainde Hichilema the winner of Thursday's presidential poll. The president-elect has promised a better democracy. But as Wilkista Nyabwa tells us, the incoming president has a huge task ahead as Zambia battles COVID-19 related economic challenges.
After 6 attempts at the presidency, Hakainde Hichilema has finally clinched it.
My fellow citizens, citizens of Zambia, it is with great honor, humility, gratitude that I stand before you today to say change is here.
And the celebrations among his supporters capture his moment of victory and expectations.
The new government coming in place, we can at least see that they'll find jobs for us to do. But then with the old regime, which was based on cadres just getting works and opportunities, this is the change that we needed. That's why people are happy. Disgruntled youths, that's what they called us. And now we show them that we're not disgruntled. We're actually the youths that make the change. We control our democracy. We've showed them.
Hichilema, who is an accountant by profession, beat incumbent Edgar Lungu by garnering over 2.8 million votes. Lungu managed to get just over 1.8 million ballots. Election monitors say Zambians have done it again by exercising their democratic rights peacefully.
This is a very momentous occasion for Zambia. We have had a number of elections in this country and a number of peaceful transitions. So this is yet another milestone for Zambia in that we have been able to hold successful elections, and we are obviously going to see a very peaceful transition. So that's a very big plus for us as a country, and we all deserve to celebrate this.
Outgoing President Edgar Lungu, in a live broadcast on state radio and TV, conceded defeat, promising a peaceful transfer of power. He had earlier indicated his displeasure with the outcome. He said the polls were marred by violence and that his party officials were chased away from polling centers. As celebrations die down and Hichilema gets down to work, a huge task lies ahead of him. Zambia is grappling with high unemployment among young people. The COVID-19 pandemic has also dealt a blow to livelihoods. These, together with falling copper prices on the international market, have made the going tough for the Southern African nation. These are some of the issues that may have contributed to the outcome of this election, and Hichilema must now take them head on. Wilkista Nyabwa, CGTN.
Dr. Emmanuel Matambo, a political analyst at the University of Johannesburg, is joining us now via Zoom with more on Zambia's election. Dr. Matambo, thank you. What is the impact of President Lungu's concession on Zambia and the Southern African region?
Good afternoon, and yes, thank you for inviting me. It is indeed a show of magnanimity and statesmanship on the part of President Edgar Lungu. We of course hope that what happened in Zambia could translate into a regional kind of democratic progress that has to be made. I mean, we have seen that Southern Africa is a mixed bag of democratic credentials. Zambia and South Africa are kind of leading the pack at the moment, and we also hope that the same could happen in countries like Zimbabwe that have struggled to reform themselves democratically.
So what is the likely political direction of the new president?
Well, first of all, he has a Herculean task before him. He has to make sure that he wins investor confidence, which I think this election will help to maintain an economy that has actually been battling for the last 6 years. So we hope that investor confidence will translate into tangible results for Zambia. And of course, we have seen that there was an erosion of civil liberties. Media houses, private media houses were closed down. Some of them, Prime TV, another television station was closed. Here it is now going to open. And of course, we also hope that just the rights of citizens will be respected, and that the police and the military will take back their role as security structures in the country, because we have seen that our cadres from the political cadres of the previous ruling party, the Patriotic Front, became even more important and even more influential in some aspects even than the police. So we hope that there will be some sanity in that particular direction as well.
So, Dr. Matambo, aside from the political priorities, of course, we do know that most of Africa is still grappling with COVID-19. What do you see as priorities and challenges for Zambia at the moment?
At the moment, of course, we expect that there will be a better management of COVID-19 cases. And not only that, President Hakainde Hichilema should also make sure that at least he rescues Zambia from this chronic and suicidal dependency that the economy has had on copper since independence in 1964. So we hope, of course, at the moment, the major priority, the emergency that should be done is to close down just to better manage the impact of COVID-19. Last year, Zambia became the first country to default on the repayment of Euro bonds under COVID-19 circumstances. So we hope that President Hakainde Hichilema will manage that and then bring back the country on a progressive terrain.
Dr. Emmanuel Matambo joining us there from Johannesburg. Thank you. Meanwhile, heads of states and government from the Southern African Development Community, also known as SADC, and member countries will be holding a two-day annual summit. The meeting will take place from the 17th of August to the 18th of August. The key point on the agenda is overcoming the impact of COVID-19, increasing production capacity and collaboration among member states. The summit also coincides with the decision by Zambia's President Lungu to concede defeat in the country's recent elections. Well, CGTN's Angelo Coppola is in Johannesburg following up on the summit for us. Angelo, so apart from COVID and how to overcome the COVID-19 pandemic, what else is on the agenda for the Regional Bloc Summit?
Well, Beatrice, there are several topics that are at the top of mind of the delegates there, including those four leaders. There's safety and security in the region. The South African president provided an update on the mission to assist Lesotho, in fact, to find a peaceful solution to their challenges. In fact, Ramaphosa was the special SADC envoy who facilitated peace in the Mountain Kingdom in the first place, and that was when Jacob Zuma was actually president. Then Botswana will be also, as the outgoing chair of the Organ on Politics, Defence and Security, be presenting a status report on the regional peace and security situation, specifically what's happening in the north of Mozambique, now that those SADC troops have been deployed, with the Rwandan contingent claiming some early victories. And of course, there's that long-held strategic plan to integrate, transform and grow the region's economies. So a couple of things occupying the minds of the delegates, but they have been meeting since the 9th, in fact. So all the bureaucrats have been busy finalizing communiques and finding common ground between all of the delegates. Beatrice?
Well, Angelo, because of the pandemic, there will be a limit on the number of those attending. But do you know who is attending and what issues they are bringing to the summit from their respective countries?
Well, I must say that the hall is relatively empty compared to other summits that we've attended. There were 6 heads of state in the room at the time, while others joined remotely. I've mentioned Ramaphosa. We know that the president-elect for Zambia has probably got his hands full building a new cabinet, so he wasn't there. But everyone's preoccupied with COVID and dealing with that pandemic, and that's coupled with kickstarting their economies. Some are doing better than others, but it's about integration and transformation, as I said, and getting everyone on the same page. In fact, an economist I spoke to says that the group's economic growth rate contracted by 4.8% in 2020, and that was after a growth of 2.1% in 2019. So many continental economies are on the back foot, and hopefully the plans that are devised at the summit that we'll hear about tomorrow during the press conference in the mid-morning will provide some solutions and obviously some measurable outcomes. Beatrice?
All right, Angelo Coppola in Johannesburg. You're watching Africa Live, still ahead on the program. Nigeria begins its second phase of inoculations. And Cote d'Ivoire Ebola vaccinations kick off after a woman tests positive.
Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climates and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
I've been Tunis, Cairo,
Juba,
Johannesburg, Ethiopia, Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Nigeria has begun its second phase of the nationwide COVID-19 vaccination program. According to the country's secretary to the government of the Federation of Nigeria, Boss Mustafa, over 4 million doses of the Moderna vaccine donated by the United States through the COVAX facility will be rolled out in the second phase of vaccination. CGTN's Wilkista Nyabwa reports.
Health workers in Nigeria have started vaccinating people with the Moderna COVID-19 jab. The country aims to protect its population from the disease amid a surge of infections.
For the next one, I'll make sure my wife took it. I have little children that are up to 18 years old right now. But I will advise people to try and take it.
According to the Africa Centers for Disease Control, Nigeria has so far been able to vaccinate only about 1.23% of its population. The country, however, continues to see a spike in infection rates driven by the highly contagious Delta variant.
The impact is, you see, vaccination generally, one, it helps to prevent infections. But even if one gets infected, then the impact of that infection is likely to be much less than somebody who has not been vaccinated at all. So, and we have all seen COVID-19 and the numbers that are being rolled out, that's the mortality figures and what have you. So definitely we need the vaccination against this virus in order to remain healthy.
Earlier this month, Nigeria received about 4 million Moderna doses donated by the US through the COVAX vaccination scheme. The Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, Chikwe Ihekweazu, says they plan to have most of the country's population vaccinated.
Will depend on an incredible group of Nigerians that have been working hard for the last 18 months to deliver vaccines, to test people, to do contact tracing, to treat individuals. Our treatment centers are filling up again. Healthcare workers are working through the night, every day, making sure they serve Nigerians.
Authorities say they expect a further delivery of more than 29 million Johnson & Johnson doses purchased by the government through the African Union. The Nigerian government says it aims to vaccinate at least 40% of its population by the end of the year and 70% by the end of 2022. Wilkista Nyabwa, CGTN.
And we now cross over to Cote d'Ivoire, where vaccinations against the Ebola virus are underway. This follows a confirmation of an Ebola virus case on Saturday. The victim, according to health authorities, is an 18-year-old woman. She is said to have traveled from neighboring Guinea by bus. Here is CGTN's Wanja Mungai with more details.
At this hospital in the commercial capital Abidjan, dozens queued to get their vaccine doses against the dreaded Ebola virus. Medics at the Cote University Hospital Center are among those given priority during the inoculations.
Tonight, we have vaccinated practically 200 people, and we will not stop vaccinating. We will vaccinate tonight, and we will vaccinate tomorrow morning, so we will widely cover people. It will be done in stages.
It is here that the 18-year-old woman diagnosed with the Ebola virus got admitted. Authorities in the West African country are saying she traveled by bus from neighboring Guinea. The border crossing between the two countries is unregulated, according to the health minister. It now threatens Cote d'Ivoire's safety.
It's not that the bus left Guinea to cross the border and return to Cote d'Ivoire. No, people come illegally. It's like people who take boats to cross into Europe. They arrive at the border, they cross it by roundabout ways, and then they reconstitute their traffic once they are in Cote d'Ivoire. Having heard this case, we are going to reinforce the epidemiological surveillance by modern methods because we have the possibility to control these people. Even better, we are going to sensitize our communities so that the health watch committees get involved so that we do not have these situations anymore.
Her case becomes the first Ebola virus infection in Cote d'Ivoire since 1994. The country escaped the Ebola wave that swept through West Africa between 2014 and 2016. The World Health Organization described it as the largest, most severe and complex epidemic in history. It killed 11,000 people in Sierra Leone, Liberia and Guinea. Authorities in Cote d'Ivoire are determined to tackle the virus and are aiming to vaccinate 2,000 people by Wednesday. In the meantime, those suspected to have come into contact with the victim are under surveillance in the hospital. Wanjamungai, CGTN.
Well, Dr. Fiona Braka, Program Manager for Emergency Response at the World Health Organization's Regional Office for Africa, based in Brazzaville in Congo, joins us now with more on this developing situation. Dr. Braka, thank you for joining us on the program. What are some of the reasons for increasing outbreaks of Ebola in West Africa?
So it's important to understand how the virus is spread, and this can explain why we are seeing these outbreaks. This is a disease that has its natural host as animals, and the fruit bats are the most common source that we know so far as the natural host of the virus. And fruit bats are eaten in some of the communities in our setting. So when people go to hunt and get in contact with these animals, either their fluids or in the course of the preparation of the meat to be eaten, they do get exposed to the virus. So that's one route of transmission. Once a person is infected, then we have the human-to-human transmission. So when we get in contact with an infected person through body fluids such as blood or saliva, we do expose ourselves to the disease. But also when we are in contact with the dead body of someone that has been infected, then we are predisposed. So the behavioral characteristics in some of these communities does play an important part in why we see these outbreaks. And we still don't know a lot about the disease, but with what we know, we encourage that people do protect themselves from infection.
So how effective, though, are the current interventions, including border surveillance? Because we do understand that the current patient was on a bus from Guinea.
Yes, that is correct. We are dealing with a case that traveled from Labe in Guinea and crossed the border into Ivory Coast and into Abidjan. So the interventions, it's a package of interventions that is recommended, starting with identifying all the contacts that the patient did come in contact with along, right from the source in Guinea and along the route down to Abidjan. So that is quite an intensive process, but very important to control the disease. And once these are identified, the isolation and the case management is extremely important to prevent further infection. So infection prevention and control measures, even in the facilities among the health workers, is crucial. We also need to understand the community dynamics. So community engagement in controlling the disease is part of the package. And since the last outbreak we had in 2014, 2018, there's been a lot of developments around the research and diagnostic component of management of Ebola. We now have a vaccine that has been successfully used in the outbreaks in DRC and the outbreak in Guinea recently. Over 350,000 people have so far been vaccinated in these two outbreaks, and this is a safe and effective vaccine. So we are already in the process of using the vaccine in the Abidjan outbreak. Through the solidarity between Guinea and Ivory Coast, who are able to negotiate for vaccine to move, and these are on course currently. Already vaccination is happening within 48 hours of the confirmation of the outbreak in Ivory Coast. So we are hopeful. We also have progress in the therapeutics use of monoclonal antibodies to improve the chances of survival. So an effective package of interventions is in place, and we are optimistic that with the intensive surveillance across the borders and the case management and communication and community engagement, we should be able to control this outbreak.
Dr. Fiona Braka joining us there from Congo Brazzaville. Thank you. Meanwhile, Ghana says it is on high alert to prevent outbreaks of Ebola and the Marburg virus in the country. This comes after neighboring Cote d'Ivoire recorded its first case of Ebola after 25 years, while Guinea confirmed a case of the Marburg virus 2 weeks ago. CGTN's Nabil Ahmed Rufai reports from Accra.
Ghana's health service says it is stepping up surveillance across its borders to get the country ready to tackle any outbreak of the Ebola and Marburg virus diseases. The Ebola virus was detected in neighboring Ivory Coast on Saturday. Health officials in the West African country said the patient traveled from neighboring Guinea. She was admitted at a hospital in Abidjan after experiencing a fever. The city is home to more than 4 million people, and health officials say the threat of an outbreak is of immense concern. While Guinea recorded an outbreak of Ebola early this year, it was declared over in June. However, the World Health Organization says the confirmed case in Ivory Coast is not linked to its neighboring country, Guinea. Meanwhile, Guinea has also recorded a case of the Marburg virus, which experts say is similar to Ebola. Ghana's land borders remain closed since the outbreak of COVID-19, and the government says it will continue to tighten security at the borders to prevent an outbreak of the Ebola and Marburg virus diseases. The Ebola outbreak between 2014 and 2016 killed thousands of people in West Africa. Health officials in Ghana have, however, been advised to be alert and report any suspected cases of the diseases. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, CGTN, Accra, Ghana.
Let's now take a look at your business news. Here's what's ahead. Cash is still king in South Africa as users remain cautious about cashless payments. And Zimbabwe's solar firm Centra Grid to scale up generational capacity.
It's just taken me completely out of my depth, but at the same time it's exciting. It's new, it's different, it's a challenge.
It's really exciting.
Cash is still king in South Africa, but since the COVID-19 pandemic, digital payments have been gaining popularity. However, service fees and the lack of inner operability of various systems are a deterrence for many customers and small and medium business owners. CGTN's Ashtatal reports.
Co-owner of coffee cream company Nazarene Jacquet has installed SnapScan. The app is downloaded on a user's mobile phone, thereby enabling SnapScan to access their bank accounts. At the point of sale, the user scans a QR code in the merchant shop.
So how the process works is at the end of every business day, SnapScan will do a recon on how many transactions and the value of those transactions, and they will process one lump sum the following morning, less a service fee and an administrative charge. So we will receive one bulk payment the next day of business for all transactions concluded the previous day.
But only about a third of her customers use this mode of payment. She believes that the reluctance is a result of trust issues. Customers fear giving a third party access to their bank accounts. There are other reasons too.
Well, the cost of data, number one, inside the country is quite a bit. Number two, we offer a Wi-Fi facility here, but when we are going through load shedding, the Wi-Fi gets cut off and then there's no more data for the customers, which forces them either to use a debit or credit card, or in the instance where they have cash available.
As a business owner, she's also deterred from offering this digital payment method because she has to pay for the service. Nazarene has to pay 3.39% of all sales processed through SnapScan in her coffee shop, and the money doesn't appear in her account immediately. The executive of emerging payments at one of South Africa's leading banks, Chipo Mushawana, acknowledges the challenges facing small businesses in particular. She says currently 9 out of 10 South Africans use cash, but she's confident that this is coming to an end. 11 banks in the country are involved in a new digitization project.
Now, the reason why I single out this program is because extensive work and research was done across the entire industry, looking at markets such as Asia, etc., that have driven digital payment capabilities such as QR codes, etc. And on the basis of our findings, we have designed our very own in South Africa called Rapid Payments.
There are many benefits to having a digital currency, she says.
First and foremost is the safety aspect. Due to global pandemics such as COVID-19, all of us have been sensitized to the need for cashless transactions. And I think that's definitely one thing that we need to be focused on.
She says the new rapid payment system is expected to come into effect at the end of next year. Astatal, CGTN.
Zimbabwe has been grappling with prolonged power shortages as demand outweighs the internal power generation capacity. Now, the government has embarked on scaling up solar projects aimed at increasing the generation capacity. CGTN's Will Kistanyabwa has that report.
Zimbabwean authorities recently approved 39 solar power projects to aid in plugging the electricity deficit that has led to power outages. The government, in partnership with Chinese construction firm Sinohydro, has completed the Centrajit power project. It's on 120 hectares of land and is expected to inject 25 megawatts into the national grid.
There's an enabling framework here. The government has opened up this space to private sector developers and investors to participate. We have received support from local institutional investors for expansion. The government itself has said we need at least 2,000 megawatts additional capacity from PV solar, from wind, small hydros to be able to meet our objectives.
Centragrid is among the 39 solar power projects that were approved by the government to tackle the electricity disruption. Despite the strides it has made, the project is grappling with challenges.
Every country, for it to develop renewable energy, you cannot just depend on the domestic market. There isn't enough depth. There's need for foreign financing support. And we need to improve on our access to foreign currency, either through the auction or opening up the sector to make it easy for foreign investors to bring money into the country and be able to repatriate interest payments and dividends and things like that. That is still a challenge. This is why you see that everybody is only depending on domestic financing, which has its own limitations.
Centrogrid currently produces 2.5 megawatts from this single unit. This is estimated to provide power to approximately 1,000 houses. Plans by the government to scale up electricity output are on course, and a projected capital input of around $30 million will be channeled towards those ventures. Wilkis Anyabwa, CGTN.
Let's now take a look at some sports news and begin